This is Cannabis Growers Radio, your source of insights, tips, and secrets from the leaders in the world of cannabis and hemp. Now, here is your host, Tracy Kawahau.
Welcome in. Today we have a great show with a very wise third-generation cannabis grower named Trish Rieta and his equally knowledgeable wife, Trish. I think you're going to enjoy the show because he has a really individualistic and not the run-of-the-mill look at the cannabis industry and growing. You are also going to notice that during this interview, I sound like a mumbling zombie. I was running on fumes during this entire trip down to Oklahoma, so it's totally apparent. So forgive this mumbling zombie and listen up, because I think you're going to enjoy this show a lot for all you professional growers or professional grow owners. Sit up, because here we go. Thanks. So welcome. Today we have Trish and Trish Rieta. We're out here in Oklahoma City, and I want to introduce them to you and talk a little bit about their background in cannabis. So Chase, can you give us a little background of how you got into cannabis and what you're doing now?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a third-generation cannabis grower from the beautiful state of Hawaii. Cannabis has been basically a cultural thing for me my entire life. Grew up around it, was always around it. Whenever I became an adult, was in it from the black market standpoint. Have been in the legal market for the last 10 years now. Cannabis is more of a lifestyle than an industry as far as I'm concerned. And currently we are the head cultivators of 2 separate farms, and we plan on taking on another one here before too long as well. These farms range in size from about 2,500 square feet all the way up to about 30,000 square feet. And on top of that, we are currently constantly expanding, and we will be moving into the Missouri market within the next year as well.
So what constitutes a grower like yourself? What's the difference between you and somebody that doesn't have your kind of depth of background?
Well, at the end of the day, it's all going to boil down to ethics and techniques. There's multiple pathways to be able to get the same end results. Unfortunately, in today's industry, numerics drive sales. That's not necessarily the case when it comes to quality. People's perception of quality ranges based upon numerics. If something doesn't test high, then they're not even going to have the potential to have the visual aid by looking at it, and then the bag appeal by being able to smell it and get all the terpenes and esters from the plant matter itself. When it comes to quality, people again think numerics are what makes product good, and I know that stuff like experience, your relationship to it, what was going on in your time of use within your life, all those things actually make a difference as far as what we believe to be considered quality. So with that being said, a lot of the trendy stuff that's out there, we try not to grow those strains. We try to grow strains that, for me, basically back to the late 80s, 90s, when cannabis was still imported into the United States pretty prominently. Today's market is primarily geared around production, meaning you have a short flower time and a high yield. Those are the plants that most growers are going after. So with that being said, a lot of the really good terpene profiles that were out there have kind of disappeared, and it's been because of scale and because of the way that people are growing. They're trying to grow for production values, not quality values. So at the end of the day, I think that the craft cannabis industry will be always a thriving niche, and that's what we want to do, but we want to have the craft cannabis business model, but doing it at a scale. So that's, really what separates us. And then besides that, we try to go with all biological and organic practices. Now, I am growing indoors, so I can't say that I'm organic from that standpoint. But all the other practices that we do, everything from our nutrient line to our IPM, is all biologicals. So with that being said, you're either someone that's going to be a trendsetter or you're going to be following the pack. And, as far as I'm concerned, you look at this industry, the same as you would do any other industry. Where are the flaws? Where are the areas that, you excel? Where's your lane? You find that lane and you hit that lane as hard as you can versus trying to be geared towards everything. If you try to be here and try to be there, you're going to have flaws, because it's better to be good at something than to not be good at a bunch of things, but just know about it.
That's so interesting you say that, because I've always said that to people. It's like you find your niche, and then you dig that niche as deep as you can. So that's your niche. That is your thing. So what would you call your niche in this crazy world?
At the end of the day, we want to really bring back the golden age of cannabis again. The strains that were very distinct. Back in the day when you used to get cannabis that came from different geographic areas of the world, you had different experiences and different things that came about those cannabis strains. It wasn't, oh, this is indica or this is sativa. There was more to it back then. And now that we're actually starting to break down some of the cannabinoids and actually realize that there's more to just THC and CBD, that, again, where do these other things lie and what people's perception of quality is. So we want to bring back a lot of the stuff that was really aromatic, stuff that was, what I like to refer to as having to be extremely bold. Because you couldn't grow any of those stuff because charcoal filters didn't exist at that time. I call it BC. So with that, a lot of those strains that were really aromatic, really pungent, really kind of got lost throughout the years because of police raids, because of people not being able to have stable methodologies of being able to preserve the genetics. So a lot of those things are kind of lost throughout history. So it's a matter of finding those small little groups and pockets of Appalachian type strains of genetics and really securing those things, making sure they're stable and reintroducing them to the public.
Cool. So in your work now, are you free to talk about where you're working now, or do you want to?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, we're working in Edmond, Oklahoma. Again, we are head cultivators for two separate businesses right now, D&D Jones Farms and also Relief Labs. Which Relief Labs is prominently a extraction company. They do have their growing license as well, so we actually run their R&D for their company as well. So in the future, what we'll be doing is actually creating the genetics that will be going to the different cultivators in the industry that are actually tied in with us and we do business with, so that way they're growing product that is conducive to what the market demands and what people here in Oklahoma are wanting.
Oh, that's great. So you'll be able to just customize that.
Absolutely. Because, different strains do differently in different geographic areas. So, in this area, a lot of the stuff that was popular in the West Coast 5 years ago is slowly starting to be popular here. That's not necessarily stuff that does well in this area now. So it's one of those things. We know that this area is tremendous on puns. So we have a couple of strains that have been released here in the state, Sooner Glue and Cowboy Kush. They're actually some of our best-selling products that we have, and the reason why is just because of name recognition. So we were able to put some pretty decent genetics into the market and really been able to strive from that.
That's great.
So we have a couple of flagship products.
So what do you think about this market, Trish? The Oklahoma market?
It's like a wild west right now.
It's kind of wild. It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's wilder than Colorado was, or maybe not was, but is now, right?
Oh, absolutely. For me, this is, probably get in trouble for saying this, but probably the loosest state that I've seen as far as language that has been written. The fact that it's a constitutional amendment, meaning that, the government can't, well, the federal government could, but the state government isn't going to step in with anything. It's crazy here. I mean, you saw the turnout here. I mean, it's a tremendous group of people at an event here in Oklahoma. No one would have ever thought.
50,000 patients in 1 year compared to Colorado in, 3 to 5?
Yeah, in 6 months, we actually, I want to say that we doubled Colorado's numbers within their first year, within 6 months here.
Is that right? Well, no, it just seems incredible. It's like there was a lot of pent up demand and desire, and you've got a lot of people that have ag backgrounds or nursery backgrounds So everybody's like trying to play. So let me ask you this: since our focus is growers, if we had a room full of relatively new growers, what kind of advice could you give somebody that's starting out that wants to get into this industry, or maybe is just starting out, especially in this kind of stuff? What are the kind of things that they should be aware of, or kind of pitfalls they should be concerned about?
IPM, integrated pest management, is probably the most untalked about important factor within a grow. We're all growing something that have bugs naturally associated with them because we're growing something that is live. So with that being said, we all will experience a bug in our growing setting. Depending on what methodology you're going to use for your IPM, that needs to be addressed and established just as much as your nutrient line, your lighting, your air conditioning, or any other environmental factor. For me, your IPM structure is just as important as your genetic structure, because if you have the best genetics in the world, but you are completely covered in fighting infestations of parasites and bugs all the time, you're never going to hit the full potential of those genetics. So therefore, you don't really separate yourself from your competition out there, because at the end of the day, your IPM will dictate whether or not you grow top shelf quality product.
Are there any myths out there that you can bring to light, or what the general grower believes that is probably not necessarily true? Is there anything like that?
Yes, just because people believe that certain chemicals are safe does not necessarily mean that they're okay to use. Most of the stuff, I'll use neem oil for example. Neem oil was something that I used for 20 years in a growing setting. It was kind of my silver bullet. It really was something that helped everything from your powdery mildew all the way to spider mites. So it was, my go-to spray. With that, now there's health issues associated with using neem oil. A lot of stuff that is marked as being either organic or safe to use is meant for ingestion through either like a fruit or a vegetable, where it actually goes through your digestive system, versus something that is going through combustion or vaporization, which goes into your bloodstream immediately. So with that being said, it's more of an ethical thing for us, that we want to make sure that we're not putting anything into our medicine that would really cause someone to have some type of medical condition, or to make their medical condition that they're currently battling worse than what it was previous to using the cannabis. So for us, at the end of the day, patients come first. Making money is a byproduct of doing the right thing.
Sure. That makes perfect sense. So if a grower wanted to chat with you or talk to you, is it okay if we share your information or put it on the...
Yeah, absolutely. We also actually do consulting for everything, not really home cultivation anymore,
Right.
but everything from that to large-scale operations.
Cool. Yeah, because it seems that we always come up with people that have questions, that want to know what's going on, or see if someone can answer something. And so, and the idea of working on a professional level, I think, is just important all the way around.
Less is more in this industry. People don't, seem to understand that. They think that they have to grow 100 different, varieties and strains of cannabis, which, not every strain of cannabis is conducive to the same feeding regimen. Everything has to be dialed in. We all have different diets. We all have different requirements. Yes, we have stuff that will maintain sustainability and keep us alive, but that doesn't, again, make us thrive, and same with the plant. So less is more. Great. If I can give any more advice.
Great. Well, cool. Well, I really appreciate your time for both of you, and we'll put your contact information on the podcast, so if people want to chat with you or send you an email, they can do that. So thanks again for spending time with us, and we'll check back with you another time.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, thank you so much for joining us today. And if you enjoyed today's show and want to know how you can help us get the news out there to other professional cannabis and hemp growers, please give us a 5-star rating, and of course, subscribe on your favorite platform. As always, a special thank you to all of you passionate growers that have dedicated your lives to constantly improve cannabis and hemp. You are the reason we are here. Keep up the good work, and until next time, stay curious.